it's the foundation of life. Sound and movement, it's so valuable for us because that is the foundation. Just taking a walk and having a conversation, it's a certain dance that we have with the universe, but with the other person as well too.
You've been to so many different countries and so many different cultures. Have you seen that dance itself is like a unifier of people, like a language that's beyond language?
100%, because dance is a language, and it's a universal language, because even us people that don't dance, they are still moving. They still have a body language, right? And body language is like the hidden language of every person. The way we sit, the way we cross our arms, the way we open our arms, so we open our chest, or if we touch our neck, all of these movements says a lot about how the person is feeling, or what kind of doubts or insecurities he might or she might have, or what kind of emotions she might have, or is she hiding something, or is she wanting to say something, you know? So all of these gestures are used in dance as well too. So it's really interesting of how, yes, I've been traveling to so many different, you know, cultures and countries, and again, you know, the languages are different, and sometimes I teach people that don't speak English at all, and I teach them for 3 hours, and I have to explain, okay, we are doing this, we are doing that, right? But because movement is such a universal language, I can see, like, let's say if somebody touches their neck, it's the same in every country, you know? It's just feeling like vulnerable, or it's feeling like nervous, or it's feeling like lost, you know? So I can see even on the students, I can see like, oh, do you guys have any questions? But the students don't want to say anything because they're nervous, but they would be standing there like, no, we don't. But I really know that they do, you know? So dance and movement is really universal language that we all speak in every day, you know? We all communicate with our hands, you know? We all are walking, we all are moving every day. That's all, you know, it's all movement, yeah. It all says a lot about ourselves, yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
So have you found that, and I know this, of course, like everybody might see movies about this, or just see in their day-to-day lives, if they've ever, you know, embarked on, you know, going to dance or going to hang out with friends. Have you found that dance has been a bridge to like friendships and relationships?
100%, yeah. So what is beautiful about this is, as we were traveling so many countries and cultures, I see like a lot of my friends that are non-dancers, they would be like, oh, let's go party and let's get drunk, right? But as dancers, it's like, okay, let's go session. And session is just dancers getting together and, you know, creating a circle, and we just dance and exchange. And the beautiful thing about this is that we can do this with people that don't speak our language, and we can do this in every country, you know? And sometimes we would do it, we would be dancing all day in workshops, you know, or in studios or at a dance camp, and then at night we would just meet up and we would just dance for hours at night, you know? And there would be no alcohol, there would be no drugs involved, like there would be nothing like that, you know? And it's very powerful, because then there is these moments that are created. Sometimes the session gets really spiritual, sometimes the session gets really on like a peaceful and joy frequency, you know? And sometimes you can see the love, you know? Maybe there is a person that is going through a lot internally, either if it's in school or at work or with, you know, with parents or anything like that, and this is going to give him a space to really express and to really show like what he's feeling through the movement. And because what I love about the session is it's not just energy out, it's energy in as well too. And so there is this exchange that is happening energetically. And so it really gives a safe space for people to express their emotions without even talking. And I see this a lot. I teach a lot of people that never danced before. I teach a lot of athletes, or I teach like psychotherapists as a release, or I teach psychologists, and or even like a person who was doing what is it called, juggling.
Juggling,
Yeah, juggling, like circus people, or even like a police woman, and they would come to me and they're just like, I see you dance and I just see the release and I want to find out more about this, like help me with it, you know. So I teach these people that don't have dance experience, but even after one class they are able to express, and they're like, wow, like I feel so much lighter. So in a way it is therapy. It is very therapeutical. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that
Yeah.
consistently, you know, even somebody on my team, you know, my guy Connor just mentioned this yesterday. He was dancing, just like it's cathartic, you
Yeah.
know, so much like healing potential there. And but for you, and this is why I'm so grateful to have you, is that dance is really holistic for you, you know. And you've been dancing and performing for over 20 years, which is bananas. But in 2017, you were inspired to get even more focused on health and wellness. So can you talk about what sparked that inspiration for you?
So it was really interesting because, you know, sometimes people come into your life and they try to like sparkle ideas on you, you know, like, oh, maybe you should try this kind of food, it would be better for you, or you should try watch this person, like maybe this person would inspire you. But you know, it really doesn't a lot of times it really doesn't ring for the person until they find it themselves more internally, right? And usually it has to be like an event that something happens to you, and then it's like, okay, I need to change things, right? And so, well, first, actually, the first thought I had was when I moved from Europe to America, the quality of the food is very different over here.
You could say it.
Yes, very different.
It's
I remember I was at a dinner with friends one time. This was like 2011. So I was still very Czech at the time, very Czech Republic mindset. And I was eating, it was like a restaurant, it was mashed potatoes with some pork, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, the food just tastes fake, you know, I can't.
there it is,
Yes,
the F
okay.
word. There it is. Yep.
And they got offended, right? And so already at that time, I started to look into a little bit of why does the food here taste so much different than in Europe. And, you know, slowly I started to learn like there are chemicals used here that are completely illegal in Europe. And then naturally I just kind of like stopped eating chicken because, by the way, before I was eating all kinds of stuff. I mean, like fried pork fat and baked pork knees with mustard. Like I would eat all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Okay, like that was like that's like the Czech Republic way, like meat, right? And so naturally at the time I already stopped eating chicken because for me it just like didn't taste the way I was always used to. And then in 2017 it was actually the first time I was always going for regular checkups to my doctor. And my doctor was the first time she did like a regular checkup and some test on me. She was like, okay, there is something wrong. We need to do more testing on you. So that's when I went for a biopsy. And so they found out, long story short, it was like a process of a year, 1 year before I even found out what is going on. They told me that I am in the transition, which is called cancer in situ, and I was in the transition from the pre-cancer into cancer. So it was like a stage, almost stage 1 cancer, and it was a cervical cancer. And they were sending me for a surgery. And at the time, I wasn't plant-based. I wasn't eating healthy yet, and they were sending me into surgery, and I was like, wow, I was shocked at the time that something like that actually exists in my body. You always hear about this stuff, and heart disease, and cancer and stroke and stuff, like you hear about it, but then when it happens to you, it's like, whoa. And I was extremely lucky because they found it really early, because I am good with, like, okay, I want to do like a prevention, like, checkup. I always go for checkups and stuff like that, right? Just to make sure like everything is good. And that's when I really dive deep, and just from one day to another, like, I cut everything out. I cut all processed foods, all sugar, all meat, all dairy. I went completely plant-based. And I even went for a couple months, I went completely raw vegan as well, which, by the way, I don't do it on daily basis right now, but it is my favorite way of eating, because it just feels so enlightening. It feels so fresh, so much clarity in mind, and I just felt so powerful, and my dance felt so much better when I was eating that way as well too. With so much travel that I had, it wasn't that sustainable. That's why I started to introduce cooked food back as well into the diet. And that's actually when I had my first surgery at a time. And after that surgery, they did another checkup like 6 or 8 months later, and they said that it's still there and I have to do a second surgery. And I didn't want to do it because with the second surgery, it's a high chance of either in the future miscarriage or not being able to get pregnant or have babies. And I knew I want to start family 100%. And that's when I decided to start to do the fasting. And I went on the 7-day water fast where I just consumed water, nothing else, for 7 days. And it was distilled water as well too. I know there's a lot of people that are not fans of distilled water, but I'm a big fan of distilled water. So no minerals neither, and it completely flushed everything out of the body. I continued the raw vegan diet for a couple more months, and then next time when I went on the checkup, after I denied the second surgery, when I went on the checkup, it was completely gone at the time. Yeah. And the doctor was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, they still had me go for, more checkups, like,
Right.
after that, because they thought it will come back and stuff. And
He was like,
yeah,
no, thank you. That chapter's
thank you.
done.
No, thank you.
That's
Yes.
a powerful story.
Yes.
And this is the thing,
Yeah.
too. Like, we were talking a little bit before we got together of, like, your experience is the most powerful degree that you could ever have, and you become a walking representation of what's possible.
Yes,
People might
exactly.
not necessarily understand the technical stuff, but there's something about you that is just going to resonate. And I didn't share this with you, but part of the reason I'm sitting here right now is because of a story, not exactly, but very, very similar to yours, with my wife. This was, we'll just say, 17 years ago. And she went in for a routine exam, and they found these precancerous 2 stage 1 cancer cells. And of course, it's just like all hands on deck. You got to do this, you got to do that. And she was obviously very upset hearing that term, right? It's just like, what do I do? What did I do wrong? All these things. And fortunately, we had a guide. We had my mother-in-law, because I didn't know. I had no idea. I was working at the university gym. I was still trying to finish my degree. And I knew how to, I knew about a fitness side. And I also knew about, like, I got myself healthy, but I didn't know, like, these big diseases, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, that there was a solution. And so she told my mother-in-law, who was the guide, my teacher, my greatest teacher. And she's actually coming into town today, which is just bonus. Like, you're here, she's coming. And so anyway, so we went and told my mother-in-law, and my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend, and she was just obviously, she was very upset hearing that this was the thing that was going on with her. And my mother-in-law is she's kind of very stern and cool. And she was like, what are you crying for? All you need to do is this, this, and this. And so immediately she put her onto this fasting protocol and, juicing and wheatgrass and all these different things and specific herbs and all this. And 22 days later, she went back and got checked. Maybe it was within 30 days. They couldn't find anything. All right.
Only
And like,
30
I
days.
didn't know that was possible. Right. And so the same thing happened with you. It's just like, you were like, oh, no. Actually, let me do this. And then I go back and they can't find anything. But here's the part 2 that I want to steer you towards and everybody. They're going to keep trying to find something,
Exactly.
Yes. And that's part of, in a sense, their job. But seek and ye shall find something. If you look hard enough and invasive enough and you go and snip this or test this, instead of just like, when they saw that and just like, what the hell? I can't find anything. Why didn't they ask you? Have you ever thought about this? Like, they didn't ask you what you did.
No, they didn't at all.
Yeah.
At all. I didn't even mention anything to them because, and they didn't ask anything. It was I don't know, something inside of me, like, at that time was like, I don't think this should be the answer. I don't think, like, surgery and cutting something should be the answer, and something like inside just told me like there has to be another way of healing ourselves. And I am really grateful for that experience to happen because it just opened a whole world of possibilities, and now like I'm capable of like, I have inner circle of my friends, and sometimes they, I've been having cough for the past 8 months, or I've been having like itchiness right here for the past 2 months. And, there are these simple remedies that you can recommend to your close circle and friends or people that ask that completely work for them. And it's just incredible. And yeah, as you said, like you go for a checkup and they test you, and sometimes they find stuff that is it really there, or are they just trying to find something? And then they throw at you a bunch of words you don't know, and it scares you. And then the fear might actually start something in your body.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also the tools, like, okay, so I have this thing expressing potentially. The tools are, I'm going to cut you. I'm going to poison you, right? Maybe burn you. We've got burning, radiation as well. And it's just like, where is the health in any of those things? And also like, and then this is a fundamental question I want to implore everyone to just always have in their mental bank account ready to ask is, what caused this?
Exactly.
Because there's never, and this is a strange phenomenon too, because it's supposed to be a system based on science. There's this idea that things just happen, right? Yeah. But that is against the principles of physics, like there's against the principles of the universe. There's nothing that just happens. There's a cause and effect, something caused this expression, right? And so like, let's address what caused it so that we don't have the reoccurrence, but that's just not how things work. And so, being able to become sovereign and an authority on your own health and your own body, and then being the expression and teaching that to other people is really remarkable. I want to ask you about movement, but I'm going to do something a little bit different because there's so many different things that it affects. So I want to ask you this. I want to ask you about how it affects essentially the different areas of our lives. So let's start with this one. Why is movement such a valuable tool for improving our mental health?
Because movement is us. We start with movement when we are a little fetus. We were created by movement, right? So that is, we are developing inside of a moving body already. Even when we are sleeping, there is the movement of the heart, there is the movement of the organs inside of the body, and all of these aspects have effect on the baby that is inside of the woman. The baby is feeling and hearing the breathing, and the heart is already a rhythm, so that already is a dance in itself, right? Because dance is a movement to the rhythm. And so when we are born, it's not like we are a clean sheet of paper anymore. We were bathing in like a bath of emotions. We are bathing in bath of sadness, in bath of happiness. We are bathing in bath of all of these hormones. We already took on the rhythm of the heartbeat of the mother. We were already hearing the breathing. Now we are going to take on the breathing patterns as well too, right? So even such a simple thing as really making sure like we are breathing correctly, we are breathing deeply, we take time to take breaths in during the day, or conscious breaths, right? Because all of these things are going to affect the next generation, the babies that are about to be born. Now, even when we are born, we are so taught to take our baby and put it in the crib, or put it in the car seat, put it here, put it there. But really, like what our ancestors did, they were carrying their babies at all times, because the baby's nervous system and the development it's not fully developed, right? Nothing's fully developed yet. So when we carry the baby, they are still learning how to breathe. They are still learning the movement. They are, even just by us carrying them, they are strengthening their different muscles in their necks and backs. And ultimately, they're not just learning by watching from the floor, but they are learning by us washing dishes, or us cooking something with them, or us dancing with them, And so that is so essential, because movement and sound is the creation of our life. That's the two elements, movement and sound. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's facts. I didn't even know you was gonna go there to like the root, the origin. That's so powerful. And to lean into that a little bit more, I'm asking you this specifically because obviously, we're living at a very strange time where there's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of struggle with mental health, epidemics, multiple epidemics that we've never seen before. The greatest rates of mental health challenges ranging from depression, anxiety, suicide, ADHD, schizophrenia, the list goes on and on and on.
100%.
There's basically disorders for everything. Everything gets a name today. But what we're really seeing, a consistent thread of that, is a disconnection from ourselves, and a disconnection in a sense from peace and stillness. And life is movement as well, for sure. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to take in, and today more than ever, there's so much coming at us. And our brains and our bodies were not really wired up to handle all of this turbulence, So I'm asking this because I want to provide solutions in every form or fashion that I can come up with, but also things that have a thread of truth and also humanity. We've been dancing forever.
Yes.
And
forever.
so
since the beginning of time.
To lean into this a little bit more, with all of the divisiveness, I've already asked you about this and how dancing can create connectivity, not just to others, but to ourselves as well. And so what about encouraging people? Like you said, you've taught a lot of people who don't dance. What would you say about people utilizing this, intentionally utilizing movement and dance as a tool to improve their mental health and improve their emotional well-being?
Yes, because ultimately, if we think of it in a very simplistic way, all we need to do is to just put on the music and move our body, right? There doesn't need to be anybody in the room. There doesn't need to be a teacher that is teaching us. It can be our self-expression that is for free. Putting on music and just dance and move, it's for free, right? And just this kind of act can be so meditative for our body and mind, that it can help us to improve the mental health in such a tremendous way, because music has the power to actually raise our vibrations and raise our frequency as well too. And because there was actually scientific research where they were looking how music affects water, and music can completely change the structure, the molecular structure of water. If you play like Mozart or classical music or other music that has a high frequency, the molecular structure turns into these really beautiful, it looks like snowflakes, right? Really beautiful structures. And if you play music that has a low frequency, the music has ugly structure. No, it's just not nice. Now, our body is made out of 65, 70, 80% water. So if music can change the structure of water, it can change our structure as well too, right? Now, if we don't not just play the music, but we are moving with it as well too. Same with water, there is movement in water as well too, right? So if we are moving with it as well too, it's raising our vibrations and our frequency, which is literally repairing the nervous system. It's repairing the the thinking, and it's raising the thoughts itself. Yeah,
That's powerful.
just by that, just putting on music and expressing.
This was one of my favorite books back in the day when I was venturing into the different areas of nutrition and water and hydration, all that stuff. And it's Dr. Masuro Emoto's book, Hidden Messages of Water. I still have that audio book, but this was back when you actually bought like disc, so this was the audio book. And it's really fascinating to think about that. And water has this really it's the thing, of course, like it's like the reason, one of the core reasons we have life on the planet.
Yes.
So I always think about that synchronicity with humans and with the planet itself. The planet is maybe around 75-80% water, and it's just like, that's a funny coincidence. It's the same ratio in us. And water has this intelligence. So you're talking about like these water crystals, like the crystals that it forms. And water has this ability also to change. It never disappears, right? It's changing form, going from a solid to a liquid to a gas. It's one of its very unique qualities. It's adaptable.
Yes.
But the greatest thing about water that I don't think we really get, we have to sit with it, is that water is intelligent enough to become us, right? Like it becomes us, human tissue,
It's a crazy
so
idea.
fascinating how smart water is.
Yes.
And so I love that analogy as well. And so to stack on this a little bit, and actually, you know what, I'm going to ask you about this because I don't want to glance over it. It's such a powerful thing. We even talked about it before we started the show. And a big part of the reason, if people are thinking like, what was it? Like she fasted and her body got better, this so-called condition was able to resolve itself. A lot of times it's simply getting out of the way. Like your body knows what to do, and it's stacking conditions in your favor.
Yes.
So for you even mentioned that, you've created like more of a habitual thing where you employ or put a little bit of fasting in your life. Right now you've got a new baby, that you're taking care of and that you're feeding. But this has been a tool that you've been able to lean back on. So what have been some of the other benefits you've seen through fasting?
So before I got pregnant, I was fasting every week for 24 hours. Usually I started like 8 p.m. on Saturday and ended 8 p.m. the next day, right? To me, like super easy. It's not a hard fast. And what I've seen at that time, I was consuming only distilled water, no added minerals, no tea, no juice, no lemon in the water, nothing like that. And what I saw was I saw clarity more clarity. I saw more focus. So even on my practice, when I was practicing dance, I was able to focus more. Because right now, nowadays, all our work is on our phone. So the focus is sometimes, it's just so much going on. And so I really used it as a tool to be in the moment. And what the fasting actually promotes a lot as well is a flow state, is being in the zone, being in the moment. And besides that, I also saw a better stamina in my body as well too, better metabolism as well too, and just overall was like the appreciation for everything was higher. So the appreciation for the practice or for the music or for just the day was just very different. The appreciation for actually having the time the next hour is just for this practice, right? And the joy in it. One of the main things is when you are dancing for over 20 years is to just still keep it fun, not just practicing because I have to practice, but I get to practice, right? So even the fun of it raised its vibration as well too. So definitely fasting is a wonderful tool, and it doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be 4, 5, 6, 7 days. It can literally be, even if it's an 8-hour fast, if it's a 12-hour fast, 1-day fast, and that's enough, just to try it out. And yeah, definitely I think one of the best benefits from it is promoting the flow state, which is for us dancers so important, because what we are always striving for is to be one with the music, and we can be one with the music only if we are in a complete state of the flow. Yeah, it's a very deep
That's a
theme as
powerful
well.
word, fluidity, even transitioning from the water to this. I just did, it was pretty much a 4-day fast, this week. And, one of the things that I saw, which you pick things up, I've been doing this for, it's almost 20 years now, so about 17 years, so it's getting there. But one of the things that I really noticed this time was the fluidity in my body, right? So just like little movements, it just seemed like there wasn't any restriction, that I would notice if I'm doing this or that or reaching for this, or just these little movements where my body might feel a little bit more tense or wired up. And so that's kind of relaxed, and I do, of course, like there's going to be an inflammatory element with food, even if we're eating the best diet. But that's what I've really seen this time around is this fluidity that's present. And I want that, like I want to keep that, but I also want some deliciousness in my life too, And so it's just, I want to implore everybody to keep this as a tool and a resource our ancestors have been utilizing for thousands of years. There have been conditions, of course, where it wasn't planned. People weren't wanting to fast, but it's just like season change and, availability. But, many of the great religions and many of the great civilizations have implemented this for a reason. And a big part of that is that mental clarity. Because, like you said, even just if you're somebody who's been eating, 5 meals a day or 4 meals a day for years, and suddenly you're like, I'm going to do an 8-hour fast, just your brain is going to be like talking to you crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and using some of those key words that are just crazy, like, I'm starving. I'm going to die. For real? Like, you've got, millions of calories stored in your body, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna die.
People skip one lunch and they
Yes, like I'm starving to death. I'm so hungry I could eat a cow or whatever, And but the thing is, it's just like that. If you can have the awareness, and this is why I always encourage folks to have somebody to model or to learn these things from, because you can have somebody to point you to, like, this is gonna happen, right? This crazy voice is gonna come up. And you can actually see it, like, who the hell said that? Like, was that me? Like, where is that coming from? And last thing we talked about was the joy of eating. When you do eat, it takes things up a notch.
Oh, yes. It's just a completely different palette of flavors in the food that you are eating, and suddenly like, which that is one of the benefits of fasting too, because you can get rid of some habits that might be so hard for you to get rid of otherwise. The fasting might completely change your habits. That, as I was mentioning, I completely got my rid of my addiction to coffee, right? I could do 6-8 espresso shots a day before, like it was bad. And with the fast, suddenly after that I was like, I'm not craving coffee. I don't need it anymore. And since then, like it hasn't come back. And it also cures like a lot of what can help with also if people have like fidgeting or like scratching. Some people might like be scratching themselves, scratching face. Or why I'm saying it is because I had a really bad habit of biting skin around my nails, which is also a mental condition, right? It was really bad. And after the 7-day fast, that completely went away as well too, for the first time in my life. And so it can really clear the body physically, mentally. It clears the soul, and yeah, as you said, like if you're not used to fasting and suddenly you're gonna fast for a day, your brain is gonna talk to you crazy. So it's really important to also have like good people around to like support you and motivate you to keep it going. And one of the other things that I also realized is every time I was fasting, even if it was for those 24 hours, every time I had a very different experience. And it's always important to listen to your body. That's another thing that it promotes, is to connect, like really the connection with your internal intuition as well too. And I remember that when I was doing the 24-hour fast, always I felt good, no problem, like I was in a good mood. And then one day I went on the fast and suddenly this huge headache came. It was massive. And my body started to be achy. And I was like, what's going on? Like I was really, really confused, right? 5 days later, I found out that I was pregnant already. So I was only 3 weeks pregnant at a time. And 5 days later, I found it out. So my body was literally telling me like, hey, it's time to cut this out, no more fasting. So it's really important. And I even remember that day I cut the fast earlier. So it's, as I say, it's really important to listen to like the internal voice as well. If there is something come up and the internal voice is saying like, hey, it's enough, like let's continue next time, it's important to listen to that as well too. Yeah.
That fluidity applies to that too, to be able to be fluid.
Exactly.
That's something, and this is another great, but first, actually, before I even get to that, I want to just hammer on a couple of points, like why fasting could have these potential benefits, whether it's for improving our immune system, resolving, psychological issues and things of that nature. So one of the big benefits that we see pretty quickly is a boost in anabolic hormone production, like HGH. So your recovery improves, it's muscle sparing. So it actually helps your body to retain your lean muscle while going and utilizing some of that stored excess. Also, this process is one of the really interesting things that's helping to resolve issues with blood sugar normalization.
Yes.
But also while your body's figuring that out, because of our addiction and our dependency on food, we could have some symptoms of, our blood sugar being a little bit wonky. And so this could have the side effects of you being more irritable or whatever the case might be, which nobody told me about that. And I had a girlfriend, we're both doing 21-day fasts, and we were arguing about the stupidest And I remember this, like, I remember a specific place we were at, and we were arguing. I'm just like, during the argument, I had like an out of body experience. Like, this is dumb. I'm not even mad. Like, why am I so angry? You know, and you get to see that voice. You know, so resolving blood sugar, balancing blood sugar issues. So improving your insulin sensitivity. blood sugar normalization, HGH production. If we look at leptin, satiety
Yes.
hormones, getting back on track, we've got some great data on that as well. Just the list goes on and on and on.
Yes.
But also, if we're talking about improvement with our immune system as well, because our immune system, one of the craziest things about this life is this duality with our need for food in order to build our vessel, and also the metabolic energy that it requires for you to turn that food into something.
Yes.
It's the most energy intensive thing the human body undertakes by
100%.
far,
Yes.
right? And so when you are able to pull away a little bit from that energy siphoning, more energy gets directed into fixing stuff you didn't even know was wrong,
Exactly.
because your body, like, there's a lot going on. And so one of the things, the big drains that happens is our immune system function, which is largely located in our gut. And so in comes this meal, there's like, they have to be front line. Your immune system has to be there to handle this.
Yes.
And so you see this really interesting shift take place with, cancer issues resolving, for example.
Yes.
And this is something, again, we've got sound clinical data on this now, with this being utilized in cancer treatments, fasting and different modalities. And so, yeah, it's just super fascinating. I can go on and on and
Yes.
on.
100%.
So, but I wanted to circle back now and talk more about, because a part of this detoxification even is movement, right? So it can assist in this process. And so I asked you before about why is movement such a valuable tool for improving mental health. I want to ask you next, why is movement such a valuable tool for our physical health specifically?
So, there is this image in our society nowadays that people, when they go to the gym or they sign up for fitness classes or when they are running, they are doing it mainly for, again, the outside look, the six-pack and the lean muscles, and just for the look from the outside, but instead looking really what the movement physically is also doing on the inner side, on the inside of our body too. So what I love to look at more is when I'm thinking of movement and the physical aspect of it is, am I doing any good to my heart and cardiovascular system today? So instead of when I'm going on a run or jog or when I'm doing my dance practice, I'm thinking of actually improving the health of my heart instead of necessarily always thinking about getting my muscles leaner, right? So the reason why I think we are not so focused on it, because we can see what is going on the outside of our body. We can physically see that with our eyes, but we actually cannot see our lungs and cannot see our heart, and we cannot see our gut, and our organs and all of that. But that is what is running everything. Our gut is running everything, our heart. And so it's even just the intention and the thought and the energy of having behind our physical movement, actually having this energy more internally, we can actually have a better result externally as well too. And so it's like a gym. It's like a gym for your heart, gym for your gut. And also we already know, there's so much research on it that when we are physically active, then it is improving our gut, our digestion, and that is so, as you were spoken, one of the greatest benefits of fasting also is that you are seeing how much food takes place in our daily life, how food is everywhere. You walk out on the street and you see billboard with food, you see food on your phone, you hear friends talking about having lunch. And so food is absolutely everywhere. And you are not perceiving this when you are eating. But once you stop eating, you suddenly find out how that is actually running our lives all day, every day, and that is the social thing to do. You go with friends to sit down, have a coffee and a snack, and you go with family to have a dinner. Every day it's food, and suddenly when there is none of that in our body, our performance can go up so much higher. And so movement in the physical way, it actually jumpstart our whole metabolism. It is improving the immune system. And not only that, I also want to encourage people, because I see this a lot. People would, and this is not a bad or good or correct or incorrect, but it's a beautiful day outside, and people go into their garage and run on treadmill in their garage, right?
It sounds funny the way you said it.
And they open the garage door just so they can see outside, but they're in the garage running on a treadmill. Instead, going actually outside on the road and running on the road. On the treadmill, you are just giving energy out. On the road, when you're actually jogging and running, there's also energy coming into you. It's very different when we as dancers are dancing inside or outside. It's a whole different skill, because the energy inside, you are just giving out. So actually inside, you don't even need so much stamina physically. But when you're outside, suddenly you feel the energy coming onto you, and you are trying to work and figure out on how to actually give and receive, right? But when you are inside, you just give. But there's only so much you can give, right? So that's another thing I would love to encourage people to, close the garage, give the treadmill, put the treadmill somewhere else, and just go take the jog outside, because it is going to have so much more benefit, not only the energy, but sunlight, air and all of that. It has a really huge effect on the physical health as well too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That imagery, like, it seems like we're in prison. Like, we put ourselves in prison, right?
I see it every day in our neighborhood,
Yeah. You could see outside, and all the life is just like we bind ourselves, But of course, there's a big part of that is habit, because of conditions, especially if people live where it's not always nice.
Yes.
It's just like, well, I got my treadmill. But when you have the opportunity, actually get out. Like, that's such a powerful, you just said it, just like, you're also taking in, you're absorbing when you're out in, quote, reality, versus the little confinements that we put ourselves into. And also, not to villainize, and I love you set up just like, it's not that it's anything wrong, but if you think about it, again, it is a new thing. It is a very new invention to run on a thing, right? And the thing is moving. That's the big key. It's not that you are moving yourself. The ground is moving under you. So it's taking away a natural input. It's like a deficient nutrient, like it's a deficient food, like it's missing this huge thing that you should be getting, which is your ability to plant and push off the ground.
Yes.
Right? And so, again, not to say good or bad, but kind of, it's a little deficient. It's missing this step.
Yeah.
So I love that. And so when we have the opportunity, and also, like you said, you're going to feel very different. Like, pay attention to how these different inputs feel.
Yes.
And not to say that this can't be a supplement, your treadmill, but the more that we can enjoy reality and interact with the world, I would imagine it's going to be better for us.
100%, yeah. So even one more thing I wanted to mention is gyms are a great, I would say, social gathering as well too, because even with dance, like, there is a big difference, as I was mentioning, dancing inside and dancing outside. But if you are dancing inside or moving inside, working out inside, such as gym, you still have people around that might give you also energy. Even if you don't know about it, you're still getting the input there. So that is also a really big difference, is if you are by yourself, or if you're actually, we are social humans, we need people, right? So even if you are in a gym and you have people around you, their energy also is affecting your physical performance in the gym as well. If you were dancing or if you're in the gym by yourself, there was nobody around, you probably might not have such a big physical performance as if there's people around, you know. So the energy from the outside is always so important, you know. That's why, like, I also love this analogy is the physical aspect it has, the effect it has, like our phone on us, right? Because we give so much energy and movement as well, even if it's small movement, to our phone, but our phone is not giving anything back. And that's why a lot of times technology is so draining for us, because it's like, I love this analogy that I heard, that it's like dancing with a partner that is not dancing back, you know. So you're trying to move the arms around and stuff like that, but they are not dancing back. So it's like that with like technology, electronics, our phone as well too, you know. So even I always recommend people, because a lot of people that also train with me and take classes from me, they have work that requires, you know, sitting by the computer or being on the phone. So I always recommend them, if that your work requires that, always make sure to take breaks in between and move a little bit around, you know, get on the ground, you know, or jump, or, you know, see people and move a little bit with them, you know, play some music. And so because we are not getting any energy back, and it's the aspect of the give that makes us feel so overwhelmed and so anxious and so stressed. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good, so true. One of the and again, it's about habits. It's about creating intentional places for this. So 9 times out of 10, whenever I get on the phone, I start moving. You know, I get on a call. My wife knows this. Like, I'll go out in the backyard or walk around, or I'm out in the front of the neighborhood, you know, just walking around. And that's when I take my calls. And it's just something that one day I just decided, like, that's what I'm going to do. And it just happened over time. And so obviously, you know, we can't, in this society, it's difficult to run from technology. Like, it's everywhere, just like food, it's everywhere. But it's also choosing how we associate with these things.
Exactly.
And I love that so much, where we can actually take something in, because guess what? When I go outside and I start moving, now I'm pulling in from the environment. You know, I'm pulling in some sunlight, some fresh air, you know, the list goes on and on and on. And of course, the movement inputs as well. So I love that so much. And by the way, I wanted to add a little bit of fun science nuggets here when we talked about movement improving gut health. So a recent meta-analysis, this was published in Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity, found that exercise can positively enhance the number of our beneficial microbial species, enrich our microflora diversity, and improve the development of commensal bacteria. All right, so bacteria that's hanging out, working together, having a good sessioning together, you know, and this benefit takes place when we move our bodies, when we exercise. So again, these are inputs that our bodies expect from us. And so when we're talking about this stuff, we're not talking it just to talk. We're talking because it's facts.
It's facts, 100%.
With Jaja. All right, so I want to ask you about this one now, because again, I mentioned our really alarming state of divisiveness, which is the craziest. It's a extreme irony, because on paper we appear to be the most connected society in the history of humanity, but at the same time there's so much apparent divisiveness. It's definitely not as much as it's framed to be. You know, there's a lot more humanity, but at the same time there is some big concerns where people are going so polar opposite and not being able to connect and to have this communal commensal experience. So why is movement such a valuable tool for connection and for community?
Again, it's the foundation of life, you know, sound and movement. It's so valuable for us because that is the foundation. And when somebody, you know, decides to at night turn on the TV and sit on the couch for a couple hours, you are literally you're literally taking away the foundation that you are meant to do, you are meant to be, you know. So with the movement, whatever it is, if it's working out, if it's dance, if it's any kind of sports, it is also creating the social aspects of it, the social gatherings of it, you know. And that is also creating the communication that is so valuable for us too. Communication itself is movement, right? When we communicate, we are moving our hands, we are moving our body, we are gesturing, you know. When we are sitting, when we are standing, we might be moving even our legs, you know, or like just taking a walk and having a conversation. It's a certain dance that we have with the universe, but with the other person as well too, because it's always an exchange. So it's so valuable for us and for the community, because again, we are not only giving, but we are getting back. We are getting the energy back that is enhancing. It's enhancing our immune system, enhancing our metabolism. So it's so important to get social and get moving with other people. Yeah, I always like encourage, you know, I always encourage people that, you know, maybe they come to me and they want to express more, and they don't really have a community. So the first thing is I see like what city they live at and where they can find a community that can help them to get out there and get socialized and get moving, because that is going to have such a tremendous effect on their mental and their physical health, you know. So we are social animals, you know, and we are moving animals, you know. So it is just so valuable for us. Yeah.
Life is movement.
Yeah,
you know,
life is
everything
movement.
moves.
Everything.
I just was walking this morning and I saw this snail, you know, rolling up. The other day I saw a snail with no shell, by the way. I'm just like, what happened? Like, who stole your home or whatever? But then anyway, so I saw one today, and he's moving slowly, but he's still moving. And, you know, this is something, even it's invisible, you know, to us. You know, we only see a certain spectrum of light and of reality. We look like this very solid thing, but, you know, we're a bunch of atoms, just like constantly moving, you know, just vibration. And so throughout, and it's hit me several times as you've been speaking about vibration and about kind of this conductivity of things. You know, everything really is, you know, we use this term music, but it becomes so, it puts it into a box that it doesn't do it justice, because everything is music. Literally everything, even silence, there's music to it, you know. And so our bodies are in this kind of symphony, you know, and also the synchronicity. And oftentimes when we experience pain or problems, when there's disharmony, right?
100%.
And so things happen for sure. And so being able to have movement as an expressive tool and a healing tool. And I want to ask you about this because something happened to you, you know, and in 2019, you had an injury, right? Sacrum injury. What was that experience like? And yes, first talk about that.
That one was bad. Yeah, I mean, I went through so many injuries throughout dance, and the beautiful part is that each injury brought something special into my movement, right? So I was just telling my students yesterday, one of the styles that I do is robot, and I was teaching a robot class, and one of the main reasons why I got so good at it, because I used to have tremendous inflammation in my lower back and in my neck, and so I used to have pinched nerves and so much inflammation in both, and I couldn't move. So I couldn't move this way, like in my torso, or I couldn't move this way, and so my body was just moving like this, and that was the only thing that I was able to practice. And because I was so committed to still move and practice, that's why I got so good in robot.
Wow, holy moly.
I was tapping into the style already, but I was never like practicing it consistently.
Yeah.
And then when these issues come up, which by the way, I had these issues for 10 years of my career in dance. And so sometimes there was months where all I could just practice was this. That's all I could practice. I couldn't do anything else. So I love turning negative into positive. There's always an opportunity to find, because again, it's the balance. And again, it's the give out, give in, right? It's the balance. If there is big success, there will be a big problem, right? If there is a lot of joy, there will be a lot of sadness. It needs to always balance.
People don't want to hear that, Jaja.
Yes.
They don't want to hear that.
If there is a lot of pain, there is possibility for a lot of success as well too. It goes both ways, because people think if they have a lot of pain or a huge injury, that's just what it is, But they can always turn it, because there's always a balance, so it goes both ways, right? And so that was actually my biggest. I cannot even say if the inflammation could be classified as injury. It was just inflammation in the body, probably from all the stuff that I was eating, right? It's all connected. And once actually I went plant-based, that's when all of this stuff went away as well too. And then in 2019, I had a huge injury with my sacrum, and that one as well, because I couldn't really move my lower body. It was just my upper body. And so that was another opportunity to practice different stuff with my arms, with my head, with my chest. Because if there is no injury like that, we might not find all of these possibilities that are there. We might not perceive it, right? So anytime something like that happens, I see it as like, okay, the universe is giving me opportunity to find and perceive something else, So yeah, this is just an invitation for people that might be struggling with this kind of mindset, Yeah. So injuries are my lifelong friends, There have been
That's powerful.
So many of those, yeah.
So I want to encourage everybody who's listening, make sure you check out the video of this episode so you can see Jaja dancing. We'll put up some clips of her, and it's just something you have to see in this lifetime. You're amazing. And an injury like that, where it's like hard for you, you are in an intense amount of pain, and when it's difficult to do much of anything, you'll do just about anything to get out of pain. Mm-hmm. And so I know that some new tools are going to surface. So not only new skill sets, mm-hmm. shifts with your mindset, but new tools for healing and recovery mm-hmm. are going to come about. So did you pick up anything from that? Like, what did you learn from that? Like, what were some of the tools that you picked up from that experience?
So, I wanna talk about a little bit of like the tools for body recovery and stuff like that too. From this particular injury, actually, what I found very beneficial for body recovery for any injury is functional range conditioning, which is actually not that widely known. And there is this amazing guy who does functional range conditioning here in LA. His name is Mark Holzum, and he was actually coaching me but he was coaching me out of this injury. So I was working with him a lot, and he completely, like, in 4 months, he recovered me completely out of that. So it was really amazing. So again, what I learned from that, because functional range conditioning is using, and I don't know if I will say this correctly because I'm not very knowledgeable in that topic, but it uses the stretch but strengthen at the same time. So instead of you just stretching your arm this way, mm-hmm. you would be stretching it but then also strengthening it and pulling again. So mm-hmm. with any kind of body part, they are stretching and strengthening. And he would just find like such angles and positions where he would be stretching and strengthening, and I could see and feel the differences that it had on my joints, like my hips, my shoulders, that suddenly I had a bigger range in my joints than I could ever have before. And my body was capable of withstanding more risky angles than I was capable before. So since I've been doing the body recovery with him, I do functional range conditioning almost every day, even if it's just like just a wrist kind of thing or something like that. So I do that. Other ways of body recovery I love is definitely different kind of breathing techniques. My favorite one is Wim Hof. Or I know a lot of people, it goes by fire breathing technique as well too, but I love Wim Hof. I love ice baths. I love cold showers and cryotherapy. So those are some of my favorite techniques for body recovery as well. And then of course food and fasting. Yeah.
Powerful, powerful. What about massage therapy? Do you do any of that?
Yes, I actually was working with a neurosomatic massage therapist, and for 3 years every week. But she has a baby now too. She's my good friend now. She's her name is Roxanne, and she really has like magical hands, like what she does. I work with so many different massage therapists, and for some reason the techniques particular that she was doing, again it's called neurosomatic massage therapy, that was definitely my favorite.
Awesome, awesome. Now, another one of these tools that you picked up along the way, and I would imagine it's been beneficial for dance, for creating a space. I used to do this thing I called the imagination station, where I would visualize my life, but it would be a part of my meditation practice. Like I'd do some type of meditation at the front, and then I would end it with the visualization. So meditation. So I've heard you talk about that as well as being a really important tool for all manner, not just with dance, but just overall health and well-being.
So visualization is a huge part of my practice, probably bigger part of my practice than actually physical practice. Visualization is something that I remember doing since I was a little kid. And since I was a little kid, I had a really imaginative mind. That's what I remember. And I would always imagine myself. It's really funny, but since I was a little kid, I was visualizing myself dancing, even before I was dancing. And so I remember there is even a scientific research where they took basketball team for 6 weeks, and they had them practice physically every day, and then they took a basketball team for 6 weeks as well, and they had them practice only visualization every day. And the team that actually was practicing visualization had just a little better results than the team that was practicing only physically. And the reason why visualization is such a huge part of my day is because I don't always have time to practice physically, right? I don't always have time to go to the studio or outside and dance for an hour or two. But I always have time to practice the visualization, even if I'm washing dishes or if I'm with my daughter, with my husband, like it's anytime I hear music, if I hear music in the airplane or in a car or in the grocery store, the farmer's market or anything like that. So I always visualize right away when the music is on. We are what we are thinking, right? Whatever we do, it's a choice, right? So ultimately, if you are practicing visualization and whatever it is, even if it's sports or you're practicing visualizing for math exam or anything like that, you are actually creating it's called myelination. You are creating the myelin around your nerves, right? And it's like this isolation around your nerves, and the more you visualize it, visualize it. Yeah, do I say
You've been nailing it throughout.
I'm trying. And or the more you practice it physically or mentally, the myelin is just getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and then it's hard for the information to escape, right? The fatter the myelin is, the better the information is going to be locked in there. So visualization is something that I do a lot with my students and always remind them about it, because it can be just about anything from performance to a competition to the timing and musicality on the music to the techniques, to everything. And it can be getting better all the time, not just when I have time in the studio. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So I want folks to be able to be a student of yours, even if just like having some little mental nuggets on like what they can do to improve their movement, or to take advantage of movement to improve their health, their mental health. What are some tips that you can share for folks to improve their movement and or to connect with their bodies?
So just simple one, very simple one. When you hear music, or even if the music is not there, if you connect with yourself and you hear your heartbeat, you hear rhythm, right? Rhythm is in everybody. It's all inside of us. Just nodding your head to the rhythm. Yeah, just a little bounce. Anytime you hear music, just a little nod. And just a simple thing like this can actually bring you into the flow state. And that's another huge topic that I would love to talk about, is we are so far away now from the zone, from this flow state, that we have such a capability of being in it, being completely connected. And again, it starts when we are babies, right? There is actually this method, I don't know if you ever heard of it, is a Montessori method with babies, and it actually promotes the flow state in the babies, which means, for example, the toys that they're gonna get, they will be natural wooden toys, or they will be from materials that are found on the earth, in nature, right? Or the surroundings that are around them is not going to be like cluttered, right? And it's very minimalistic and very simplistic way of raising a child. And all these little things, it's so simple and so little, so minimalistic, are creating the flow state inside of us. So what the Montessori method is actually doing is it's creating the flow state inside of the child. And so what a child then is capable of doing is, for example, focusing on playing with one toy and finding different possibilities with it, even for an hour or two. So what I see nowadays a lot is, the parents play the baby music, and then they give it a bunch of plastic toys that also make a lot of noise and stuff like that. And all of that is so much distraction, right? It's like with water. When you throw a bunch of things inside of water, as we were talking about, because our body is mainly made out of water, when you throw a bunch of things in the water, it creates like this tsunami, right? It's just, it creates this chaos. But instead, if you have just like one simple wooden boat floating on the water, it can create a balance over there, right? So even just a bounce or a little two-step, even a little two-step can promote the flow state inside of a person, and it can bring more of a connection with the body and with the mental aspect, with the physical aspect, and connecting with the sound and with the music.
That's fire.
And we can do two-step when we wash dishes,
Yeah. Facts. I love it. One of the things that I was just like, that's it, I have to talk to her, was seeing, and it was so obvious once I saw it, but I never thought that someone would do it, which was you were utilizing weights when you were training, when you were doing your dance training and working on techniques. You utilize weights. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Yes, 100%. This is a practice that I started to do maybe 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And because in dance, my specialty is not a certain style. My specialty is body control. And body control can be applied to anything. It can be applied to any style. It can be applied to any sport, right? Different sports have different control that you need to use for example, throwing a ball, right? It requires different kind of speed. It requires different kind of tension. So that actually what I specialize in is how much intensity, how much tension, what is the hold, is it a soft hold, is it a strong hold, right? And that I utilize in every style. So in the dance world, what I'm known for is actually being able to switch in so many styles but stay really high level in each style. And it's because of the body control that I am studying. Mainly I was studying on my own body and then applying it and applying with my students, right? So what I do is for example, for movement to be, let's say if I want like a stop motion kind of movement, or if I want really slow speed control and stop, it requires a different weight for it. It requires different intensity. So I add weights. Either I do just weights in my hands. I don't really use ankle weights or weights on legs because it creates unbalance with knees and stuff like that. But I do use weight vest as well too. Well, now I use my baby. That's enough. And so what I would do is when I am holding the weight, then I would be doing the stop motion with the weight in my hand, and that is actually creating again more of the myelin. I'm locking in the information, and it's so much harder to do the stop motion with the hand, with the arm, with the weight. But then when I practice it over and over and I let go of the weight, the information is locked in there now. And so that's how I utilize it. I have different exercises where I use the weight vest or the do they have names, these
Dumbbells?
weights? Huh?
The dumbbells?
Dumbbells, yeah. And with different
which is the dumbest name ever, by the way.
yeah,
They're called dumbbells.
it's a strange name, right? So also different, what do you call it, different weight, like depending on how much they weigh. If it's like 3 kilos or 6 kilos or 9 kilos, it will give you different body control as well too. Yeah. So yeah, this has been definitely a training that I haven't seen in the dance world anybody else doing, and it's been really working well for the techniques that we are looking for in different styles. Yeah.
When I saw it, it's just like, oh, that's how, like, she's so good at this. It's just like one extra level or layer of, input for your body. And I love that you bringing it back to myelin. It's something we've talked about many times over the years, It's fascinating. So, man, this has been so dope and so insightful. Could you let everybody know where they can follow you, like get into your universe?
Yes.
And you're also teaching too, like where can people come to a class or be able to learn from you that way?
You can find me, of course, on Instagram at Jaja Vankova, or you can also find me on my website, jajavankova.com. I am teaching regular classes every Tuesday, 5 p.m. My husband is teaching also regular classes every Friday, 8 p.m. But we are also teaching private classes. We are also teaching online. So just connect, if anybody is interested, just connect and we can get it going.
Awesome.
Get the movement going.
Yes. So your website would have information for your classes?
100%, yes. There is
Sweet.
all the information for the classes. My Instagram also has a link where you can find information for all the classes as well too.
Dope. This has been one of the funnest visual experiences because like watching you talk and move while you talk, it's just like, it's so graceful and like just cool. It's like, you bring these things to life. And I appreciate that. And also, thank you so much for sharing your story and the work that you've done on yourself to become a better teacher, to put you in a space to be the mom that you are today. And even that's a whole other conversation that we could talk about in the future,
yes.
of course, is just that component. And, it's just so inspiring. And, right now, I think that I've said this statement many times that life is movement, but this is one of the, like, if you have a body, you have movement potential.
Yes.
Like, you can do something. And our bodies are like a bridge to a new reality. Like, it's so close. Like, you
Yes.
can literally, you can't help but be a part of it. And so
Yes.
having you here today has been very special and another encouragement, I think, for everybody to move more. So thank you. Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
What if I told you these are diseases of skeletal muscle first? And that obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease begin in skeletal muscle first. Insulin resistance begins in skeletal muscle first. And if we care about root cause medicine, then we have to care about skeletal muscle.